Aloha and welcome to our council roundup. I'm Vice Chair Kipukai Kualii, and with me is Council Member Bernard Carvalho. We're here today. Council Chair Mal Raposo can't be with us because he's still on the continent with his new grandson Jahari. So we had committee meetings yesterday or this past Wednesday, and we started with our Public Works and Veteran Services Committee. And there was one item on there, but we spent over 2 hours on that one item. So it was a update from the county engineering, providing us a briefing regarding the implementation of sewer services throughout the island. So in general, for a while now, I think many of the council members were wanting to know, how are we helping our people? How are we helping with affordable housing? And of course, the biggest issue out there is that looming deadline in 2050, where all the cesspools need to be converted to septic at least or connected to wastewater. So how is the county going to be helping to get more people connected?
Yeah.
We had a pretty thorough presentation.
Overall, I think it was a good, thorough from Kekaha to Haena. I think that was a good discussion that we had. And it kind of went into detail, and we can share that shortly, but just wanted to let the public know that there is heavy discussion, and we as council members are very involved, if I can say that, right? With seeking information, what direction, how we can provide the resources.
Yeah. We're in budget right now.
Yeah, we're in budget. So we're trying to say, how can we as council members provide the resources to add to that bucket, I'm going to say, if you will, to provide the resources.
And we want to make sure everyone there managing our wastewater division knows that we're behind them. And we want to figure out how to get the resources. Everything involving wastewater involves a lot of money, millions and millions.
And for us, we're talking like federal, state, county, all of it, and how we can seek that opportunity. So anyway.
So they started off by saying the good news is that they have capacity, so there's still ability to get more people onto our existing plants, so wastewater treatment plants, which we have 4 on the island. But the bad news is we're behind on our maintenance and repairs. So they laid out for us that I think it was like to the tune of $200 million.
Right.
So a lot of maintenance, the deferred maintenance. And basically, we really need to take care of that so that we can also then move on to expansion and potentially maybe even having new treatment plants.
New treatment plants. So, I know the conversion program is in place, but we like to seek more opportunity with treatment plants.
Yeah, and we sort of have to too in some areas because some of those plants are in the tsunami zone. They talked about Waimea and Wailua.
Wailua.
Yeah. So they gave us a really cool map, which pretty much showed us, it came from the Department of Health, data from the Department of Health, which showed us where and the UH study tells us too that there's, I think, 14,000 homes that have cesspool now that need to be converted. Right. So they pretty much showed us where the bulk of those were. And they're where you think they would be in all the heavily dense neighborhoods, Kekaha, Waimea, Koloa, Poipu, Wailua, Kapa'a, Luhui some, and then Hanalei a lot too. And then the Department of Health has also prioritized which ones need to be addressed more immediate. So they had priority 1, 2, and 3. Right. So it was all those red dots.
All the red dots on
which everyone was concerned about. All the council members and
everybody.
A few of the council members also said like, hey, we need to make this a priority because, if you're talking about 200 new housing units, we have 14,000 existing ones, and it's going to be a problem for everyone.
Right.
And to put in a new system for 35,000 or 50,000 is a lot more than trying to get them connected. I think Councilmember Kagawa was really pushing, saying, hey, let's focus on Kekaha. Kekaha has about 2,000 homes that need to be connected. Right. And then they told us that it's 25,000 cost a home. to add the lines, add the pumping stations, all of that. So that's a total of 50 million. But of course, they responded to us too. It's like, how do we pick Kekaha over
That's why. So I
Kapa'a?
think the
And
balance
all the
between
different communities
yes,
want it. But I think Councilmember Kagawa and the Costa too was like,
Yeah.
well, we got to get started.
Yeah.
So
and what we got from them, which was Donald Fujimoto folks, right, the team, is the plan, a solid plan that can really emphasize this is where we should begin, this is what needs to happen. And so I think that's another part that was at the table to see, come on, let's go. And what do you need to assure that there's a solid plan in place?
they did share with us
Yep,
the
the
exact
layout.
capacity numbers in slide number 9. And so basically all of our, I think Wailua is the one that's have
Yep.
more than 50% capacity, and that's why they're looking to work on that as well. But in the example of Kekaha too,
Kekaha.
I think what they said too is like, if they were to invest the 50 million and then connect all those families, that would now put our plant over 90% capacity.
right.
And the Department of Health requires, once you get over Department 90% capacity, you have to expand the plant or build a new plant.
Right.
So, I mean, they clearly are, and that's what we were asking for, having to put a lot of time and money and effort into plans for the future needs.
Right, and it also ties into the new housing programs, well, out in the wet, Kekaha, right? So it all ties into existing as
Waimea
well as
400.
future, the Waimea 400. And that was a big discussion as well on how to support that new development as well as our existing homes.
So they did have a slide too on all the different plans that they
Right.
need, facility plans for each facility
area.
to, design, upgrade, improve. And the plans alone are costing 13 million and
Total.
could take 3 years. So we're like, we'll get on it. If we need to find
Right.
money, we'll find the money because you got to get the plans done before you can do the actual work and upgrades.
Okay.
They spelt out all the deferred maintenance, the
Future
200
goals.
million I mentioned, different treatment plans, 50 million here, 25 million there, 25 million there, and it all added up to 200
200,
million.
yeah.
I think
Even on the maps, and then the known future project, the sewer service projects, right? Waimea wastewater treatment plant, Ele, the Limaola project out there on the west side
Yeah.
as well. So they kind of targeted all the different areas.
Yeah,
Some
and one of the
good layout.
things we basically was all asking for is for them to get back with us with
Yeah.
a plan. I mean, their wish list, their what have to be done, by what schedule, what time, and what each of the things cost. And then also the potential for where the funds can come from. The funds
Exactly.
can come from federal.
Federal.
Right now, the administration out of Washington, D.C., and the president has put a lot of emphasis behind infrastructure investments. And even with the diversity, equity, and inclusion focus and push as well. So I'm thinking we have these needs, we need millions of dollars
Right.
to invest in our wastewater, and we are, a lot of people of
And
color,
again,
Native Hawaiians and
Native
others.
Hawaiian, yeah, we talked about
So
that.
we are a
Native
diverse
Hawaiians
population.
right, and then in order to get those funds, we got to come up with a solid plan, and I think that's what we're trying to get to, so to the sort of people.
So
to get
more
the
will
benefits.
come. I assume
It's
that
coming,
we
it's
will be
coming.
having, a report back maybe in another 3 months or
months.
another 6 months.
Yeah.
And it'll be an ongoing challenge and thing that we have to work on. And if anything, I thought too that what I had said at the end was like, I hope this gives us even more of a sense of urgency because we've been focusing on like things like the landfill. The landfill is filling up, and we need to urgently address that. Well, we also need to urgently address.
This
our
is a
wastewater
critical
problems.
because, like I said, what we said, it's not just the existing one, but it's future housing that can be able to flourish and be happening, especially in the different districts. Lihui is a big one, right, coming up very shortly.
Yeah,
That's
he
a
even
big-
talked about how the State Department of Hawaiian Homelands
Hawaiian
have
Homelands.
plans now to build 1,000 homes in Lihui.
Right,
And that's
Lihui.
actually really exciting because the State Department of Hawaiian Homelands never had lands in Lihui. The closest they came was the Wailua lands that
Central.
they acquired a few years back when it was a transfer with the State Department of Transportation. But with those lands now, which they purchased from the grow farm, there's plans for all these homes in Lihue. Of course, it's going to take water and it's going to take wastewater. And I think several council members were saying, yes, let's make sure we support that, because every home that is built by Hawaiian Homes is an affordable home and is going to people, local people and residents for sure.
Yes, and that was the emphasis at
that's
the
what
table.
members
I mean, I think as council members, I think we're all on the same page with that one.
Yeah.
It's the local people trying to make sure that they get the resources that they need and support so they can continue, and that's the big part.
Yeah, so that was the
Okay.
big part of our day. That was the
was the
committee
biggest.
meeting that took 2.5 hours, I think, spent on it. The only other 2 items was Parks and Rec had minutes, so that was nothing. And then in our Housing and Intergovernmental Relations Committee, which I chair, we had Bill 2915, and that's the bill we just started working on in the last committee 2 weeks ago, where we're working on housing eligibility and selection. The housing agency, our housing director, is proposing some preferences to how we, give preference not just to people on the wait list based on their, their income qualifications, their Kauai residency, and the fact that they went through the training program and got established their spot on the list, but also these other preferences like we give to private developers and even nonprofit developers can use when they do projects that could use employee preference, like if somebody works in the area of the project, and then geographic preference where they live in the area and they want to live where they work, right? Take people off the road, less traffic and all that. And then he was also adding another preference on his essential workers. Some of those are being done as amendments, and they were still being worked on, being submitted to the county attorney for feedback there. So we ended up just deferring this bill, and we're going to work on it again in 2 weeks when we also work on the other housing bill that has to do with tax credits
And I think,
for
like you
affordable
said,
housing developers.
Let's share that the preference is the big part of this discussion, right? And the layout of the preference that will be available to our community at all different levels. I think that's the part that will resonate. So awesome.
So that was it.
That's it. Anything
Yeah.
else?
No.
Wrapping up. I mean, those are the 3 items. And I think from, wastewater treatment, to our housing and all of that, it all ties in eventually. So we as council members are really working diligently to see what kind of resources we can secure so we can give it out. So.
We miss you, Chair. Harry back.
Aloha, Chair.
Thank you, everybody at Ho'ike. Thank you, Roger, for supporting us.
Aloha, aloha, and
Aloha.
shaka.